In our 7th unit, we're going to be looking at the algebra of quadratic functions. So to begin with, we're going to review the idea of what a polynomial is from grade 9. So a polynomial is just a group of terms. And so we're going to start by looking at that word term. A term can be made up of 3 parts. The first part of a term might be a coefficient, and that's the number in front of a variable that's being multiplied. The second part of a term is the actual variable, or the letter. In most of the examples that we'll see this unit, the letter or the variable will be x. And the third part of a term is the exponent. Now, a term doesn't need to have all 3 parts to still be a term. It might not have a coefficient. It could just be x squared. It might not have an exponent. It could just be negative 5x. And it might not have the variable or the exponent. So it could just be a number all by itself, like negative 5. So how do we know when a new term is starting? Well, terms are separated either by adding or subtracting. The first question that you're going to see in your homework is how to name a polynomial. So you're going to see an example of a polynomial, and you're going to have to classify it as a monomial, binomial, trinomial, or polynomial. And what that means is count the number of terms that are in the polynomial. So for a monomial, mono means 1, so it has 1 term. So an example of that would be the negative 5x squared that we saw above. It could also be 2x cubed, something like that. It doesn't have to be a negative in front. It could also be a term without a coefficient, like x to the power 5. Or it could also just be a plain old number by itself, like 7. A binomial has 2 terms. So an example of that would be just combining any one of our monomial 1 terms by adding or subtracting them. So I could take the 2 from above, 2x cubed, and I could add x to the power 5. Or I could use the last 2 from above, x to the power 5, and I could subtract the 7. So I'm combining those 2 terms. A trinomial has 3 terms. And so an example of that would be combining 3 of our monomials, our 1 terms. So I could take the 3 from the monomial examples and combine those using a combination of adding and subtracting. A polynomial is just anything with many terms. So all of the examples above are examples of polynomials. But you'll always be as specific as you possibly can be. So if you see, for instance, the one written in red here, 2x cubed minus 5x to the 5th plus 7, I want you to tell me that's a trinomial. Don't tell me that it's a polynomial. The only time that I'll want you to use the word polynomial is if it has more than 3 terms. We don't have a word for that. So something with, say, 4 or 5 terms, you would use the term polynomial. So there's an example of a 4-term polynomial. Another example you'll see is multiplying monomials. So this is when I'm taking 1 term and I'm multiplying it by 1 other term. The key to multiplying monomials is that we're going to multiply the coefficients. Now remember, those are the numbers in front of the variable. So here it's the 5 and the 3 are the coefficients. So I'll multiply those 2 numbers together. 5 times 3 is 15. And then the second step is to add the exponents. So the exponents here, I've got a 2 on the second term. There is an exponent on the first term, it's just not written there. Whenever the x is just there by itself, there are 1 there is 1x. So there, I'm going to have the exponents 1 and the exponent 2. I'm going to add those together on my x term. So 1 plus 2 gives me x cubed. And that's my final answer there. Likewise, I could ask you to divide two monomials. And when we do that, we're going to divide the coefficients. So again, that's the numbers in front of the x's. That's the 10 and the 2 in this example. So I would do 10 divided by 2, that gives me 5. And then I'm going to subtract the coefficients. Or sorry, subtract the exponents. So here my exponent is 3 and 2. So I'm always taking the top one and subtracting the bottom one. 3 minus 2 gives me x to the power of 1. Or you could just simply write 5x when it comes out as a 1.